Welcome to this online worship service of the White Bear Lake United Methodist Church. My name is Pastor John McBride, and together with Pastor Bill Lees, we thank you for joining us this morning. This week, Pastor Bill will continue our sermon series on hope. It's based on Chan Hellman and Casey Gwynn's book, Hope Rising, How the Science of Hope Can Change Your Life. Now, if you're watching this service on Facebook, either on Sunday morning or later in the week, we would encourage you to take a moment right now to share this page. That way your friends can join us in worship as well. It is the mission of our church to provide nourishment for the hungers of life. It is our hope and our prayer for you today that this service will nourish your soul, that you can be an instrument of hope to all you encounter. Let's begin worship together.
This is my
The Celtic mystics would speak of thin places, a place in time where the space between heaven and earth grows thin, and the sacred and the secular seem to meet. As we enter into this time of prayer, I hope you center yourself on a thin place where the quiet voice of God can be heard. With all the news being consumed by pandemic, racial injustice, and protest, it begins to feel like all the other troubles of the world have somehow disappeared. From the nightly news and social media, we might get the impression that there is no more war, no more hunger, no more homeless people, no more children living in detention, no more South and Central Americans waiting at our border to be heard, and no more political unrest around the world. Being absorbed with the issues of the day, this same news cycle leaves us wondering, is there still hope in the world? Is there peace being pursued? Is there justice being administered? And is there still hope among people? Yet we know that this is just an illusion created by our 24-hour news cycle. A news cycle that feeds us what it thinks we want to know, what it thinks matters to us most, and what it thinks will sell the most advertisement. Today we remember and lift up in prayer those who have been forgotten, those who are displaced by war, those who long to be fed, those who have no shelter, those who remain in detention camps, those whose story longs to be heard, and those who suffer under the strong arm of tyrants and political unrest. We also remember and lift up in prayer those whose joy goes uncelebrated, those whose work tirelessly feed hungry every day, those who make room for and shelter the homeless night after night, those who are the peacemakers living amongst us, those who are willing to risk their own security to speak to justice and equality, and those whose voice brings hope to so many in despair. God of joy, God of peace, God of justice, God of love, God of hope. Even though we are physically apart, we join together with a singular voice to proclaim the coming of your kingdom and pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Psalm 130. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my supplications. If you, O Lord, should mark iniquities, Lord, who could stand? But there is forgiveness with you, so that you may be revered. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than those who watch for the morning, more than those who watch for the morning. O Israel, hope in the Lord, for with the Lord there is steadfast love, and with him is great power to redeem. It is he who will redeem Israel from all its iniquities.
This week, we continue our series on hope, based on the book called Hope Rising by Casey Gwinn and Chan Hellman. Hope is the belief that your future can be better than your past, and that you play a role in making it happen. Hope is not simply a state of mind or a feeling. It's far more. It's not a wish or even an expectation. Hope is about goals, willpower, and pathways toward the future. The good news is that all of us can overcome the people and experiences of our lives that may have robbed us of hope and caused us great pain. Hope is different from optimism. While optimism is the expectation that good things will happen to us, hope includes both goals and the resolve or determination to pursue them. Today, we want to look at some things we can do to actually increase our hope and the hope that is found in people around us. Because when we have hope, we can share it with others. So first, we'll consider an ancient example, and then we'll get to some more contemporary ones. Let's start with Psalm 130, which we have heard read as our scripture today. In this psalm, the writer calls out to God from the depths of human suffering, hoping for, expecting, insisting on God's hearing. With a mix of belief and unbelief, trust and lack of trust, patience and impatience, the psalmist is crying out, eventually ending with an affirmation of hope in God, declaring that it is God who can redeem us from what has gone wrong. The words are stirring and have been set to music through the centuries dozens of times by Mozart, Bach, John Rutter, and so many others. And these words have been lifted up in times of grief, depression, illness, poverty, abuse, and oppression. But what was actually going on in the life of the person who gave us this psalm, this prayer from the very pit of life? Well, honestly, we don't know. Ancient readers of the Bible connected this psalm to the story of Jonah, the prophet who was swallowed by the great fish because of his unwillingness to obey God's call and command to him. He got on a boat going the opposite direction from Nineveh, where God was sending him. There was a storm, he's thrown overboard, and to make a long story short, he ends up at the lowest point of his life, in the entrails of this great fish. Can you hear this prayer from there? Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord. Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my supplications. But even there, he can muster resolve. He can grasp hold of the hope to see a way forward. O Israel, he cries, hope in the Lord. For with the Lord there is steadfast love, and with him is great power to redeem. In the story of Jonah, things change for him after he does two things. He gets angry at God, angry at his circumstances, angry at himself, and he summons courage to do something different. Anger and courage together are powerful forces. St. Augustine said that hope has two beautiful daughters. Their names are anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to see that they do not remain as they are. Finding hope in our lives may very likely involve both of these. For the writer of Psalm 130, they were the things that actually drove him toward hope. If we look at the stories of other people and at the data from years of longitudinal studies on hopeful people, we can see that there are a variety of things that can cause hope to rise in our lives. Things that we can do to raise hope in the people around us. This week, I had the chance to talk on the phone with Chan Hellman, one of the authors of Hope Rising. Dr. Hellman is a professor of social work at the University of Oklahoma in Tulsa. He told me that being able to live with hope for the big picture of your life has to do with believing 5 things about yourself. He encourages people to memorize these 5 statements as a way of raising hope in your life. The 5 statements are: first, my dream can come true. Second, good friends can help light my path. Third, I am resilient. Fourth, my future can be brighter than my past. Fifth, my light can inspire others. In his work with school districts, Dr. Hellman uses these 5 statements to build a culture of hope. With these statements printed on posters and on small cards for parents to use to talk to their children about hope. Let's look at a couple of examples of what these statements mean and how they work. And as we do, I invite you to consider how much they are true for you. First is the belief that my dreams can come true. John King was raised in New York, and sadly, his parents died when he was only 12 years old. After that, he began to get into trouble and was kicked out of school. But one teacher believed in him and helped him to see that there was a big world out there. John began to dream of becoming a teacher who could inspire other kids who had faced big obstacles in life. He became a teacher, and after years of teaching, he became the United States Secretary of Education in 2016. When he began to believe that he could achieve what he set out to do, it didn't happen easily, but life began to turn around for him. Even though the people who were supposed to keep him believing in his dreams were not there for him, he managed to hold on to the belief that his dreams could come true. Another of those 5 statements was, my future can be brighter than my past. Maya Angelou is remembered as a writer, the author of more than a dozen books, and recipient of dozens of literary awards. But she had a rocky path in life. At the age of 8, she was sexually abused by her mother's boyfriend. He was charged and convicted, but sentenced to just 1 day in jail. Shortly after his release, he was murdered, and Maya blamed herself for his death. She stopped talking and didn't speak again for 5 years. She loved reading and writing, and some adults in her life encouraged her to start reading aloud. And slowly, she found her voice again. A voice that would be powerful and important, not only in literature, but in education and in the struggle for civil rights. She looked ahead, knowing that her mission in life was not merely to survive, but to thrive. She always believed that her future could be brighter than her past. People like the Secretary of Education, John King, and the writer, Maya Angelou, may be seen as remarkable exceptions, people who were lucky, people who managed to rise above their circumstances and find success in life. Or maybe there was something else going on. Maybe some people around them understood the crucial role we can play in raising hope in the lives of other people. Imagination is the instrument of hope, and we have to help each other imagine how the future can be brighter than the past has been. One of the most important questions we can ask the children in our lives is, what do you want to be when you grow up? No matter what difficulties a child may be living through, that question opens the door and expands the view to something better and bigger than today. Children who have never considered that question are likely to have limited themselves to what they experience now, without even having goals for something better, let alone pathways or willpower to get themselves there. Hope is a social gift. It's not something that happens in isolation. Hope happens in relationships. How can we give this gift to the world today? How can we raise hope in our families, in our communities, in our world? The names Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd, along with the racial disparities in income, education, and home ownership, hold before us the truth that there are many among us who live without hope. Now we know racism is nothing new. And as Will Smith observed, racism isn't getting worse, it's just getting filmed. How can we raise hope in a world where this truth is being exposed before all of us? People of faith can show the world that we can have empathy with the experiences of others, and that we will no longer say, I don't want to worry about racism. That's somebody else's problem. We can show the world that people of color don't always have to be the first to speak up against injustice, that whites can think of ourselves as anti-racists and not as uninvolved bystanders. We can stop pretending it's okay to say, I'm not racist, and then believe we can follow those words with any words or actions we choose. We have to be open to new ideas and some tough conversations ahead. We have to ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to be when the world grows up? As we do some of these things, we are imagining a new kind of future. And imagination is the instrument of hope. Hope has become a personal journey for Chan Hellman. And in his book, he tells about how that started with his own traumatic childhood, leading him to thoughts and even plans of suicide. He describes discovering the power of hope one day when his middle school basketball coach sat down with him and said, "You're going to be all right." He says that coach's simple act of authentic kindness showed me that I was a person of value, that I mattered. Years later, after he had earned a PhD in quantitative psychology and was teaching in a university, Chan went back to his school, to a basketball game. He saw his coach and sat down to talk to him. Chan told him, "You're the reason I'm alive today." And he reminded him of what he had said and how those simple words of a hopeful future had turned things around for him. His coach said, "I did what?" Hope is something we raise in each other, whether we're crying out from the depths of life, like the writer of Psalm 130, or trying to find our way through a miserable childhood, like Maya Angelou, or trying to build a better world so we can offer hope that is in us to the people in our lives. We can invite them to reimagine with us what life in this world can be like, a world where the future can be better than the past, and where we all play a role in making that happen. I'm here today with the Fence family, with Rhea and Jeff and Veronica and Omri, and thanks for talking to us today. They're our online greeters, and let's check in with the Fence family. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, we're excited that it's summertime and that the weather's been warmer, and yeah, we're doing relatively well. Jeff works from home normally as it is, so he's had to adjust to having me working at home with him and the kids around for distance learning. So we've had a lot of together family time, which has been nice.
Good. That's great.
Yeah, I'm kind of an introvert, so I like being on my own, and I've had too many people around me. It's been the opposite problem from some people, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's interesting to see how different people have worked that out. Veronica and Omri, do you want to talk about the end of school? How'd that go?
How was the last day of school?
Fine.
It was good? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little different this year, wasn't it?
Yeah. They had a video talent show when Veronica submitted a video that they played during that, and the whole school got to see it. So that was kind of exciting.
Jeff, you're a photographer, and we were talking about some of the work you've been doing during this. You want to tell a little about that?
Oh, I've done a few front steps photo shoots, which is really kind of quick and informal, where I'll go to a family's house and just take a picture of them on their front steps. And sometimes, they can get dressed up if they want, or they can keep it. They can wear their masks if they want to kind of capture the moment of the pandemic. And then the idea is that we just ask for like a $50 donation to a specific cause or a cause that they have in mind. And they get a couple photos out of the deal. And yeah, just something I've been doing just on the weekends.
That's great. Sounds like a good thing. Any other big plans for this summer? What are you going to be doing?
We have a couple of camping trips planned. We're excited to spend some time outdoors and maybe get up to see family up in northern Minnesota. But just kind of excited to have a quiet summer at home. A lot of the things that we had planned got canceled, but the camping didn't. So we're excited to do that.
And we have a nanny that's going to be watching the kids. She started today. So
Okay.
we'll be able to concentrate on our work a little more.
Well, good. Hope that goes well. Anything you'd like to say to the people listening, to the congregation at all?
Yeah, I think we miss everybody and we're excited to see everybody in person. I think maybe that this time apart will make the time together that much more special. I think we've all really learned to appreciate the things that we missed during this time. And so I'm looking forward to that, and I miss everyone, and I'm looking forward to when we can safely get back together again. But we really appreciate the online church too. It's really great being able to go to church in our pajamas. And so we've been tuning in every week, and it's a really nice kind of family time for us together too. So we really appreciate the work and effort that goes into that. I know Jeff can tell how much effort goes into that.
It's been fun to see it evolve as it's gone on.
Yeah.
We just need to bring in more donuts for after
a
worship
couple more
time.
donuts.
Yeah, I kind of missed the donut part. Yeah, that and seeing all the people. Right. Anybody else want to add anything to that? Anybody?
Anything else?
You guys have anything else you want to add?
All right. Well, it's great to see all of you, and thanks for talking to us today. And I hope you really enjoy your summer, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Bill. You too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Summer, the peace that was meant to be.
Thank you for joining us for worship today. Each night at 7 o'clock, we have a brief evening prayer time on our Facebook page. I invite you to join me. And now, may the God of hope, the God of second chances, the God of resurrection, bless you with strength and courage today and all the days of your life. Amen.